For 20 years, Spanish cave explorer Cecilio Lopez had been caving. He wasn't just a passionate caver, but also a member of a cave rescue club. And in his 20 years of caving experience, he saved many lives. But this very passion was about to show him the most painful day of his life. Because when he found out that there was a cave in the world's largest jungle that no one had ever explored, and that many archaeological artifacts could be found there, every cave explorer was trying to explore it. Because by exploring this cave, they could make their name in the history of caving. So even Cecilio couldn't resist exploring this cave, and thus the race to explore the Che cave had already begun in the region. But before that, if you want to see more videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. In August 2013, Cecilio de Much began studying the cave. This cave was 2.5 kilometers long and about 400 meters deep. Apart from this, the cave had pits that were hundreds of feet deep, and the rocks inside the cave were as sharp as knives. The temperature there could even drop below 10 degrees. This means you could also fall victim to hypothermia there. Besides that, this cave was located right in the middle of the world's largest Amazon rainforest. This means that if anything were to happen to you in this cave, it would be almost impossible for a rescue team to reach you. Despite so many difficulties, driven by his passion and the archaeological importance of this cave, Cecilio couldn't stop himself. After studying the cave for a year, he took a flight from Spain, and on September 8, 2014, Cecilio and his friend Inti arrived at Chai's place. Just to reach the cave through the Amazon jungle, they had to travel for almost 20 hours. After spending a day at the camp in front of the cave, the next day they began exploring it. As soon as they entered, they realized that the cave's surface was extremely uneven and rugged. This place felt less like a cave exploration and more like descending a mountain, and in some spots there were even large pits. Because no one had ever fully explored this cave before. That's why Cecilio and his friends had to make their own path as they moved forward. This meant that if there was a big pit somewhere, they had to drill into the rocks to install anchors and tie ropes so they could descend into the pit using the rope. Because of this, they could only advance about 100 meters each day. Apart from this, they also had to camp and stay inside the cave itself. As they moved forward, they kept finding archaeological artifacts as well. He was also getting that everything was going according to his wishes, and after 10 days, on December 18th, 2014, it was his last day of cave exploring. That's what Cecilio thought, but fate had something else in store for him. Now he was about to reach the deepest and most dangerous part of the cave, a place called the 13 Days Room. By now the cave had become very narrow. In some places there was just enough space to fit his head through. However, he was moving forward with utmost caution. If his foot slipped here, he would immediately die from hitting those sharp rocks. At the end of the cave there was a very deep pit, and he had to figure out how to descend from there. That's why he set up camp before the pit and started planning how to get down from it. Later, Cecilio goes to the pit with his two friends, drills to install an anchor, ties a rope to the anchor, and then Cecilio is the first to descend using the rope, while his friends wait above until Cecilio reaches the bottom. Cecilio was extremely excited to reach the final part of the cave, but he began his descent with full caution. He was wondering what kind of archaeological artifacts he might find in the last part of the cave, and he was just about to reach the bottom. But just then, he hears the sound of rocks collapsing. At first, he couldn't understand how rocks were falling inside the cave. But those rocks weren't falling on their own. It was actually the very rock to which Cecilio had anchored his rope. That rock broke, and Cecilio fell from a height of 15 feet onto the hard stone surface below. But he was lucky that he didn't fall onto those sharp rocks. Otherwise, he would have died on the spot. Cecilio was fully conscious. He had just breathed a sigh of relief. But then, just a few seconds after the fall, he started to feel pain in his back. His pain kept increasing, getting worse and worse, and the pain was so intense that he started screaming. Cecilio's screams echoed throughout the entire cave. In his 20 years of caving, he had never endured pain like this before. Some of his ribs were broken, and his lumbar vertebra was also fractured. Whenever he tried to stand up, he experienced excruciating pain. But the most dangerous thing was that when he tried to use his legs to stand, he couldn't feel them at all. Maybe he would never be able to walk again for the rest of his life. Thinking this made his condition go from bad to worse. Just then, his friend attached another rope and came down to him. Seeing Cecilio in such a condition, his friend was left in shock. But when he tried to lift Cecilio, Cecilio screamed in pain. At that moment, Cecilio needed medical treatment much more than getting out. That's why Cecilio's two at once. One of the companions stayed with him, while the other went out to seek help. But since this cave was deep in the middle of the jungle, it was going to take many days for help to arrive, and during all that time, Sachin had to lie on the ground, enduring the pain. The situation had become so bad that his friend had to give Sachin food and water while he was lying down. And after almost a week, a medical team from Peru finally reached Sachin, and the very first thing they did was give him a painkiller to ease his pain, which brought him a lot of relief. But this was only a temporary solution. If Sachin's life was to be saved, he needed to be admitted to a hospital as soon as possible. But with a long vertebral fracture, Sachin couldn't be taken out by anyone. That's why Sachin's friends asked the Spanish government for help. But the Spanish government flatly refused to provide any help to Sachin, and this was truly terrible news for him. Because if they didn't offer their crucial assistance, this desolate place would become Sachin's grave. But because Sachin was a member of a cave rescue club, the entire caving community came forward to support him, and 10 cave rescuers, without wasting any time, caught a flight from Spain and arrived directly at his location. But when Sachin's news went viral on social media, more than 100 volunteers from around the world came forward to help him. It seemed like this was happening, that Sachin was finally reaping the rewards of his 20 years of good deeds, and after 12 days, the rescue operation finally began. A special stretcher was brought in to carry Sachin out. A stretcher that was completely solid so that Sachin's back could be properly supported. But getting this stretcher out was not so easy, because while you can twist and contort your body to get out of a narrow cave, it's not possible to do the same with a stretcher. That's why after carefully drilling at every spot, a ring system was created almost up to the entrance of the cave. After that, Sachin was slowly lifted and placed onto the stretcher, and the stretcher was pulled up using a rope. During this entire time, Sachin was in a lot of pain, and throughout the rescue, he was tightly strapped to the stretcher. To ensure Sachin didn't face any more difficulties, a helicopter was kept ready outside the cave, and using that helicopter, Sachin was taken directly to the hospital for further treatment. But after spending just a few months in the hospital, Sachin made a full recovery and was able to walk again. Where most people wouldn't even come near the site after such a deadly accident, Sachin couldn't hold back his passion and started exploring again. Not only that, in the times to come, he also rescued many people.